Hello everybody, I'm William Edwards. This is my wife Courtney, and I'm going to be delivering her my speech on the legalization of marijuana. Okay, today I'm going to talk about the benefits of legalizing recreational marijuana in the United States. Is it worth it? Between the states of Colorado and Washington, they are estimated to bring in about $80 billion this year in profits. Now, these are obviously huge numbers. Part of what goes into these numbers is, of course, the recreational sales, the medicinal sales, the sales from paraphernalia, real estate sales, and many other things. So these are huge numbers, but the taxes alone from this could pay for service members' education benefits 5 times over per year. So it's quite a bit, and we could do a lot with it. Throughout the course of this, I would like to talk about some of the judicial relief that we will feel, financial benefits, the dangers of marijuana, and any type of societal effects that we may or may not feel from the legalization of marijuana. I'm going to talk heavily about Colorado and also Washington because these two states have already legalized recreational use, and it'll give us a good idea of what the rest of the country would look like if they decide to follow suit. The judicial benefits. This was a big piece when they were trying to decide whether or not they wanted to legalize marijuana. A lot of people thought that the crime would spike as soon as we did legalize. And what we saw so far is that it's not the case. Homicides are down 53% in the first 6 months of 2014, and sexual assaults have dropped 14%. Now, these numbers will always fluctuate, but what's important to just remember here is they did go up. They did not go up. They actually went down. So good to see. Also, the Colorado State Judiciary Branch reported 77% less charges of marijuana-related incidents. Of course, that's the case. It's no longer illegal for recreational use, so everybody expected to see that. What they didn't expect to see that was 12 ounces of weed or more have also dropped 73%. And that's interesting because that amount of weed is still illegal. Anything more than 12 ounces is illegal, yet that number has still actually dropped 73%, so that's impressive to see. And the charges are basically just getting dismissed. So even when people are getting brought in, for the most part, the judge is dismissing the case. We're seeing that 84% of the time right now. In Colorado, what they are seeing typically is 10,000 arrests annually for marijuana-related incidents. Without those 10,000 arrests, they're estimated to save $40 million this year, just in not arresting people, and then, of course, charging them and possibly jailing them for those arrests. Nationally, that number would be 750,000, so you can imagine the kind of savings we see in the penitentiary benefits and lack of costs. So the financial benefits that kind of roll into this is this year so far $25 million in taxes on the recreational marijuana only. So that doesn't seem like a big number for some people, but that's just taxes alone on the recreational marijuana. That's not including any medicinal marijuana. It's not including the paraphernalia that's sold with the marijuana. It's not including any of the real estate sales, all the extra jobs that have stimulated the economy in Colorado as a result of this recreational marijuana. Also, there's about 650 dispensaries currently in Colorado. It costs $2,000 to apply for a license, and then $3,000 annually for the duration of your business. So just so many different ways of generating revenue off of this legalization. Let's talk a little bit about the dangers of marijuana. Obviously, that's a big issue when people are considering whether or not we should do this. Is what can this do to our health? What has it been known to do to our health? And what I've seen, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention reported that, in fact, there's actually been 0 deaths reported from the overdosing of marijuana so far, as opposed to 750,000 deaths annually from alcohol and 480,000 deaths annually from nicotine. So it's substantially less. Now, of course, there are some dangers with smoking marijuana, but there's other ways to use that drug. We can bake it and eat it, vaporize it, which is just ingesting the THC. I know the medical community is using pills, so we can alleviate some of that danger from the drug by just not smoking it and using it in a different form. It's safer than peanuts. There's been less issues with marijuana than there has been peanut allergies. So, effects on the real estate. This is a big one that people don't think about. Right now, like I mentioned earlier, there's 650 dispensaries in the state, so quite a bit. But the bigger part is the 910 grow operations that support those dispensaries. Just a massive amount of land that was needed to be purchased to support all those dispensaries. Currently, they're at 3 million square feet of commercially zoned space and another 2 million of lease space just to support these dispensaries. Additionally, in the areas that support the legalization of marijuana, they're experiencing 5% vacancy rate versus over double 12% vacancy rate in areas that don't support the legalization of marijuana. Okay, so societal effects. This was an issue when thinking about legalizing and people running around smoking and being disrespectful to people that aren't okay with this. First of all, you have to be 21 years old to purchase, just like alcohol. So it's not available for kids. Residents can only purchase up to 1 ounce and a quarter ounce for non-residents. So there's not really enough to be worried about the distribution based on what they've done here. Amendment 64 does not allow open and publicly consuming marijuana. So you can't be walking down the street and smoking a joint or whatever. You have to be in your own home or in an establishment that supports that. Okay, so the legal limit, 5 nanograms per milliliter of blood for you to be able to drive. So what that means, what I kind of researched was that amount, to get down to 5 nanograms per milliliter of blood, you would need to be sober for about 24 hours after ingesting. So it's quite a lot of time required for you to sober up and get behind the wheel of a car. So, with that law, they've negated what some people were worried about, which is driving under the influence. Obviously, you cannot import or export from Colorado. You can't take it. You can't bring it in there. So there's no risk of that, moving into other states that don't want to participate. And just one thing here is it's not, none of this applies to federal land. So national parks, museums, whatever. If it's federally owned, you still can't use marijuana on that property. So we've talked about a lot of things here. I only kind of scratched the surface, but let me go back. It supports our country financially right now. There's a lot of revenue that can be created. There's a lot of jobs that can be had. I think overall it would be a good thing for us financially and economically. It also gives our law enforcement the ability to focus more on serious crimes as opposed to, busting kids for possession and things like that. So they can focus on burglary and murder and things like that of a more serious nature. And the tourism thing, it's been big. We talked about the vacancy rate being 5% versus 12%. So, you can expect that when you go ahead and pick this up, you're going to see a lot of people coming in and using your establishments just for the fact that you have recreationally approved marijuana use in your area. So this is what I have so far. Do you have any questions based off of what we've talked about?
Yes, I do. How do you feel about the sobriety tests and that they're currently using in Colorado and the effects it might have?
Okay, so the sobriety test, 5 nanograms per milliliter of blood. I do think this could be an issue. So based on what we talked about, it would take about 24 hours for it to leave my system. So as a working American, if I wanted to go home and use some of my recreational marijuana on let's say a Monday evening, I wouldn't be able to get up and drive to work the next morning, which pretty much just leaves me with Friday night and Saturday night. So I do see it as being a problem. I think they're going to have to be able to figure out a better way, to test this. Also, it's for blood, so it's not going to be drawing people's blood on the side of the road. So I think they're going to need to implement a better test here for the DUI.
Won't people still be buying marijuana from drug dealers since it's cheaper?
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. It's going to be cheaper because of the cost associated with running a legitimate business, the fees that you're having to pay when you get started up. Of course, your business, your employees. So it will be cheaper, but I think most Americans, given the choice, will probably spend a little bit extra money just to have that peace of mind they're not breaking the law.
So anybody that has $2,000 is able to be considered to have a legal license?
anybody with 2,000 hours can apply. Yes, anybody's able to apply, but that application process is gonna screen you and the legitimacy of your business. So just because you apply out doesn't mean you're gonna be accepted, but everybody does have the ability to try to start up.
Okay. Now you said that the legal consumption, is 21. Would you think that 18 would be a better age?
I don't think so. I think we should keep this running parallel to alcohol. They're very, well, I don't want to say they're similar, but I think we should treat it the same way. The kids should be out of high school and kind of in their adult years where they're, taking responsibility for their own decisions. So I think 21 is sufficient.
Those are the questions I have for you.
No other questions?
Nope.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope everybody learned something about the legalization of marijuana, and enjoy the rest of your days.